By the way, join churchtrainingacademy.com/join. You get our bi-weekly mastermind. And last night I made this face. Or no, we're like,
That's awesome.
and if you were in there, you know what that means.
Hey guys, what do you do when somebody on your staff or on your ministry team is going rogue on social media? We're going to talk about that today. Hey guys, thanks for joining another rip-roaring episode of the Church Media Guy Show. I am your host. If we haven't met, my name is Dave Curley, and I'm the founder of churchtrainingacademy.com. Church Training Academy is a place where we all learn how to use and exploit media and technology so that we can share the gospel, take it out to the world, take it out to the interwebs, online, offline. We're learning how to do all that stuff. And I could not do any of this, successfully at least, without my partner, Justin Nava. Hey, my brother, how are you?
What's going on, Dave? What's going on, everyone watching live or the replay? I am so happy to be here, so excited to be talking about what we're talking about today, which is one of those things that no one really talks about. And the fact that we're talking about it is going to hopefully get you to talk about it. And I think I've said talk about it 10 times now. So I think I'm done. I think I'm good. I said talk about it now 11 times.
So we're going to talk.
And are we good? Did we get it?
We're talking about the talking about it.
Yeah, that's right. And if you're watching, if you don't tune in live Fridays at 11 a.m. Central, you're missing out on some good talking bouts. Because actually, we got to talking about Netflix and the Defenders series, which, you know, if you can't tell, if you're not watching the video, me and Dave are huge nerds. And we actually got talking about in the live chat about Netflix and the Defenders and Iron Fist and all that stuff. So if you're not watching live, give it a shot. Fridays, 11 a.m. at Central. Just a little quick plug there because we love having everyone watch live.
We do. Today, one of the things we're going to talk about is kind of what do you do when someone says, you know, you're not the boss of me. You can't make me, you know, you can't control me when I'm not at the church. You know, that kind of fantastically humble servant's attitude.
Hey, you know, it's part of the game we play.
Yeah, it really is. All right. Well, before we move into that, I believe my friend Justin here has our pro tip.
Hey guys, today I'm going to bring you a pro tip, which is, as we always tell you to do, collect more email addresses. Social media following is nice, but at the end of the day, that's traffic that you don't control. Facebook is going to do whatever they want with your followers, good or bad. But when you own their email address, when you get them to give you their email address, you then control that traffic. You can communicate to them whenever you want, every day, every other day, every week, and with whatever you want. Send them text, send them images, send them links, and they're going to get it 100% of the time. So for today's pro tip, I'm going to show you an easy way to get a little pop-up. We call it a hello bar in the web world. To get a little pop-up at the top of the web page. It doesn't block any content. It's not even that distracting. It's a little eye-catching. And the tool I'm going to show you is free to start with, and it's free pretty much to use, and that's called hellobar.com. So here I am at hellobar.com, and I'm just going to simply type in my Easter landing page. That's the one I say I want to put a little pop-up on, little hello bar. You're going to log in with your Google account. It's perfectly safe and natural and easy to use. And it's just going to ask you for your website again, your time zone, and if you want to do emails or not, you can select that if you want. And just so you can see here, this is the page that we're going to add it on. So we have our Easter landing page just as a little demo for you. And let's go back here. And we're just going to do create site. And this is so easy because it just kind of walks you through everything. And for this example, I'm going to do grow your email list, but you can also use it to get people to call you. You can use it to get Facebook likes, or you can promote an event that you have coming up. And so any of these are free to use. And you just have to put what you want it to say at the top. We'll just stick with the default. After we enter in our settings, here we are with the customization options. Now, if you're using the free version, you really don't have to change anything. If you want to make special features like whittle the button, you can do that, but you have to pay for it. The free version is plenty, though, and it's not in-your-face branding. If you want to keep the branding in there to keep it free, it's just this little H up here. It's not distracting at all, which I love. So here we go, live already. So collect your visitors' email addresses, your web visitors' email addresses, and this is an easy way to do it. I just did it for you here on the live show in like 4 or 5 minutes, and you can put it on any page, any website your church uses. And you, of course, you can customize this. So I would say something like, stay up to date with what's going on in your town. and then they can submit their email, and they'll stay up to date with the things your church is doing. And we'll talk more about email strategy inside of our email course that we're building. But this is a great and easy way to just get it on your website, get it looking pretty, and it's free. So you can't argue with that. You don't have to go find a paid platform that'll do fancy pop-ups. This is all you really need.
That's awesome. I really like that. I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Neil Patel, one of my personal marketing heroes.
Yeah.
And so the platform itself, I think, is right around 1.5 or 2 years old right now.
That's cool. And
when it first started, it was so basic, but now it picks the colors for you. They have a WordPress plugin. Super easy. It's awesome. Everyone needs.
How much is it if you buy it?
If you buy it, let me see here.
Is it a flat rate or is it like a monthly, like $6 a month or something?
It's a monthly. Let me look. Hello Bar pricing. Let me look for our live people. $5 a month for 100 clicks. And then it goes up from there. $12.95 for 500 clicks a month. So I guess it goes by how useful it is. You pay for.
You know what? That's really cool.
How much you actually use it.
That's really cool. And I'm guessing that if if you've gotten 100 clicks, then it's going to tell you, hey, within the first 2 weeks of your subscription, you already got your 100 clicks and stuff. Would you like to go ahead and upgrade?
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. These are all really cool tools, guys. Really cool tools. And the reason that we're sharing them with you is because these things work. I mean, they really actually work. Like Justin was saying, you definitely want to make it, in this case, you wouldn't say, hey, get our newsletter, sign up for our email newsletter. No one wants to sign up for an email newsletter, but you could say, hey, stay connected with what's going on in our church, or get our daily Bible study plan, or something like that. Some sort of little piece of value that you can use to exchange for their email address. Anyway, really cool.
Right.
And now for our feature presentation.
On today's show, we have the amazing Justin Dean, author, church communicators coach, and entrepreneur out of Atlanta, Georgia. He's one of the creators and co-founders of That Church Conference, a growing community of church practitioners dedicated to helping the church communicate well and reach more people digitally. He's also the author of the book PR Matters, a survival guide for church communicators, which released last spring. And we are so excited, and we're going to talk about social media today. Justin, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks, Justin and Dave, for having me on. I feel you guys have these awesome backgrounds full of just tons of toys and things on your shelf. So I feel, maybe I'm too old. I don't know, but I think Dave's got us covered there. So I just need to redo my office.
Wait, did you just say I'm the old guy? Is that what you just said?
I don't know.
The hair color fits.
Out of the three. I think you take that card. So
yeah, well, okay. See, I was getting ready to say that one of the things Justin left out was that you were ravishingly handsome as well. But now, I mean, since I'm old, that just sounds like I'm like perping on you or something.
Well, yeah, that'd be awkward now. But I'll take a compliment. Thank you. I agree. Out of the three, I'm the handsome one. You're the old one, and I don't. What's Justin?
I'm the smart one.
The smart one.
Yeah. If we were like hanging out or something like that, he'd be the friend we brought along.
Yeah.
And I'd be the chaperone, I guess.
Wow.
I'm used to it.
I love it.
Hey, so Justin, you're the creator, the founder, the driving force behind That Church Conference. Is that right?
I am all those things. Yeah.
How and why?
We started about 4 years ago. We're coming up on our fourth annual conference in September here, down here in Atlanta. And so, I co-founded that with three other people. But today I'm the one who kind of runs the show and operates the company all year long. We do these online summits, which you guys are going to be a part of our next one. So we're super excited about that as well.
Well, that sounds great. Everybody, as I'm known in other spaces, technology and entertainment spaces, and so I'm new to to bringing all my skills to the church media space. But everybody keeps telling me that I got to go to That Church Conference. I'm going to have to get out there.
Oh yeah, you guys got to come down. I mean, it's a really good time. It's a big 2-day thing. I'm toying around with the idea of adding on an extra day this year, but I don't know if it's just too late at this point since people have already bought tickets. But we're expanding it every year, and we bring in some really great speakers. We're big on just practitioners over theory. So everyone who speaks is within the church or working for the church. They're speaking from their own experiences and just trying to teach other churches how best to use digital and social media and websites and everything to spread the gospel. So
Awesome.
it's been great. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. All right. Today, guys, we're going to be talking about social media policy, and that's something that, churches have, policies and procedures. Larger churches especially will have all that sort of stuff. Smaller churches or churches that are moving into this area and kind of starting to look at online and the whole online world and everything may be having policies, may not be having policies, may not understand what the policy is, may think it's a free-for-all, stuff like. Can you give us an overview of kind of what a social media policy is and why it's so important?
Sure. So I talk about this in my book, PR Matters, as well, and I actually give away a social media policy in there. So I want to include that. You can get all the information there at churchprbook.com. And what I talk about is a social media policy is a little different than like your social media guidelines. So a church can have social media guidelines. Here's our target audience. Here's who we're speaking to. Here's the type of things that we're going to post, the type of things that we're not going to post. How we want to represent ourselves online and use those communications channels to promote the church and promote our message. So that's one thing, that's part of your communication strategy. But on top of that, I think it's important to have a social media policy that really guides, like, here's our philosophy, here's our guidelines on how we should all be representing ourselves on social media. And I like to say that it should be written in a way that's like, hey, this is the church teaching Christians, teaching our members even, here's how to represent Christ and represent the church online. When you write it down, you make it a policy. I think this is something that can easily go into like the employee handbook or something that's just distributed to staff. It's more of like an internal document, but it should outline, here's the things that you should post and should not post, because we all represent the church, especially if you're on staff. You represent the church in everything that you post. If somebody knows you work at the church and you start just, railing on the president or getting really political or, cussing or posting some, weird images and stuff like that, like all of that represents the church and adds to people's perception of the church. And so the policy is not a way to like govern that or police it, but really for the church to just have a teaching, kind of pastoral moment to say, hey, here's the best way to represent yourself and stuff that can honor Christ through what you do. And it's just putting that down on paper so that we can all, refer to it and be on the same page.
I think that's a good idea. It makes complete sense that you would not, put bikini pictures, up or, dirty jokes and stuff like that.
Sure.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah. Save that for Snapchat. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Stories.
So a question that I often hear when I bring something like this up is, that's my profile, right? Like I can understand, we live to an above report approach regard, right? We're pastors, we're leaders, we live above reproach. But there's things that I want to talk about on social media that are a little edgy and might make some people uncomfortable. And what would you say to those people when they say, I don't want to follow these guidelines? Make them for the church account, but my account is my account.
Right.
What would you say to someone that replies to your policy that way?
I'd say you're fired. I mean, bye, Felicia. Like, it's just not going to work out if you're going to not adhere to the guidelines. But with that said, I think that there's plenty of room here for a church or pastors to abuse this. Like the idea here is that these are guidelines and this is a pastoral issue. So if somebody really came to me like on my team and said, hey, I just, these are my channels. I want to be political. I want to post this. I want to, whatever they want to post. I just want to be myself and you can't control that and you shouldn't control it. And so I don't like these guidelines. I think that's a pastoral moment that you take one-on-one with that person and say, okay, well, why is it that you want to post these things? What is it about these things that we don't like? How does it represent the church? And you have a discussion about it and you try to work that out. and using those guidelines, which should be adaptable as we go on. I mean, social networks are changing, culture's changing, political climate's changing, things like that. And even just privacy and transparency and things are changing online and offline. So it should be an adaptable document that you learn from these experiences and change it as needed. But it should be guidelines. It shouldn't be necessarily policy. You have to do this. You can't do this. You got to take those things individually and work them out that way. But if it comes down to it, and they say, yeah, I don't think that you have any right to, say what I post or don't post, and I'm just going to do what I want. If it doesn't represent the church well, and they've got a heart issue there with not living under authority as someone who's on staff, then yeah, I think you got a bigger issue there that maybe moves into discipline issues or firing them or whatever. But they obviously aren't on board with the mission and shouldn't be a part of the team in that way. So you've got to take those things one-on-one. But I get it. I get that pushback. I mean, for me, before I went into ministry, I was in the tech space, working for a lot of startups and bigger companies. And back then, social media was still kind of starting out. Companies weren't really involved, paying attention to what people were posting online. But I was, living in, Atlanta, Georgia, listening to conservative talk radio. And, I had a lot of opinions on politics and gun policies and things like that. And I would post them on Facebook. And I was very open. I was the guy who posted too much, and I had a lot of opinions. And when I went into ministry, that was one of the first things they, pointed out, was especially moving into like a PR role, was, hey, you are now you represent the church. And later on, I actually became like the spokesperson for the church. So it became even worse. Everything I posted could become a news story, could become something that's associated with the church. And then I started pastoring people, and, they see your life and want to emulate it. Like, that's what people in a pastoral elder role are. The Bible says we should emulate, that we should, look at their lives and try to be like them. That's outside of the church. That's their lives. So it's important that we, are representing everything well. And that's hard for me because I want to post that stuff. I want to get into gun control debates right now. I want to get more political. And every once in a while I cross that line a little bit. I don't work on staff at a church anymore, but I do represent a company that I built that works, with churches. And so I can't just post whatever I want online. And that's hard to get around. That's hard to wrap your head around sometimes. But I've learned as I've grown through that those conversations are better had in person through relationship anyway. If you want to talk about gun control or politics, let's sit down and have lunch and let's talk about that, or let's do a podcast episode on it. I'm not afraid. I'm not, I'm still willing to have those conversations, but I'm not just going to blast it on Facebook for everyone to see.
Being provocative is okay. Being salacious is not.
Right.
Pose a question. And I've seen you do that. I've seen you put something out there, whether it's about gun control or about the way the president's behaving or something else, the way people are reacting, something like that. And you'll ask this question and then kind of sit back and just wait. When someone gives some sort of a weird off the wall thing, I've seen you ask thoughtful questions. Everything seems to be working towards edification and seeking knowledge, not blasting and doing all that sort of stuff respectively.
Right.
That sort of stuff can be handled properly. Once other people start going crazy with it and stuff, unfortunately, we don't have the control over them. What we do have control over is our free speech zone, which is our personal Facebook page and our, use of the church's Facebook page. And we have the power to, this conversation is not edifying. It's not helping anybody. It's causing problems. Delete.
Well, and I think, I talk all the time about how churches should be like setting the culture instead of adapting to the culture. But to do that, you have to get involved in these things. Like, churches should be involved in the gun control debate. They should be involved in political discussions of some sort. Like when race issues were a huge thing over the last few years, it seems to have kind of died down now, unfortunately. But I was a big push to say churches should get involved. Like this should take over your Sunday sermon at this point, and should be a discussion that you have, especially when 90% of the churches out there are, mostly white congregations, led by an older white generation. And so, we're attributing to this already. We need to have this ripped out in the open. The church should be the safe place to come and have those debates and have those discussions and things like that. So you can post about this stuff, but you're right. It all needs to be edifying. It all needs to point to Jesus. It all needs to involve the gospel and point to the gospel. And I think that, us individually, that carries down to everything that we post as well. I have a lot of friends apparently who work in like social media for churches that they don't attend. They attend a different church, but their job is to run social media for another church. And that to me was mind-boggling. Like, when I worked at Marshall Church, if you worked there, you moved there, you became a member. Everyone on staff eventually had to become a deacon, so you had to go through that process. If you're in any kind of director role or anything, you were in the pastoral process. Like you were, involved in our mission. You were a part of our church, and we would hire consultants and things like that from outside the church. But if you were in a role at the church, you were a member. And it's mind-boggling to me that that's more common now, is that it's just a job. You're just working for the church and you go wherever you want. But that makes it hard, because I see some of these people post whatever they want because they have no authority over them. They have no governing body over them. I mean, there's going to be a point where, you may lose your job if you post certain stuff, but they're like super political. They're super just whatever they want because they don't feel like they're representing the church. Mm-hmm. But to me and others, we're saying, well, hey, don't you run social media for so-and-so? Like, I can't believe they let you post this stuff. Like, when I see your posts, I think of them. And it's just mind-boggling to me that you're running social media for them when you don't even seem to be on the same page, with your beliefs and values and things like that. And it's just shocking to me. But I look at that and go, man, that church should have a social media policy, guidelines governing that. Because it's representing that church, and it's just not helpful. It makes me in the back of my mind think, well, I definitely don't want to go visit that church if that's, the type of stuff that they let him get away with.
How deep does that policy extend? I mean, we got the pastors and probably the actual church employees, but what about even volunteer employees? Like if the children's minister's not on payroll, but they are the children's pastor, and then small group leaders, nursery workers, the sound guy. How far does the policy extend? I mean, obviously, ideally, it would be the entire church, but for enforcing in the guidelines, how far does that extend?
It'd be a little weird to like distribute something out to like your church members, your congregation, right? Like that, these things can be really, it can seem really controlling, right? I think as far as like a written policy, you throw in your employee manual. It's part of your onboarding process for people who are on paid staff, or in the case of like a children's pastor who's not paid. I mean, that's a role that should be paid, and he's pastoring people. Like, he should be included in that as well. I think it's something that you go over with your volunteers as well, and particularly if they're like running social media for you or anything like that. But it's probably something you just got to use your own discernment with, and it could be something to where you're just watching what people post, and if it comes up, it comes up, and you have that conversation. It doesn't need to be something that's so strict, of like, here's you're helping us now. Here's what you got to do. And as far as like church-wide, I mean, these could be discussions that are just loosely had through community group leaders and things like that, to say, as Christians, let's have a discussion about how we represent ourselves online. Or, hey, there was a school shooting, and I noticed a lot of us are posting about that. Let's have a discussion about how we represent ourselves online. Like these are teachable moments that help us grow as Christians. And if it's seen from that approach, then it's not so much, here's the rules, you better follow them. It's hey, here's how we can grow in this together, to try and be more like Jesus and represent Jesus well. So I think you approach it that way. For staff, for us, it was a, something you had to sign, and we had a discussion about it when you came on staff. and it adapted over time. But I think however you push this out, it needs to not be something that's so strict. Like here's the rules. It's got to be loose guidelines. It's got to have it should be worded in a way that's like, this is philosophy. This is how we feel about this. It's not post this and don't post this. Post this, but it can't be that specific, because then you're really just controlling what people are doing, and that's just going to backfire.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. I like your list of things to do and things to avoid in here. One of the things that you said was to be discerning when posting photos. Any picture you upload can have GPS data on it. People could figure out where you live, and you made a note that is the default iPhone setting, and you can turn it off by doing this. I think something like that is something that not only do you handle with the staff and with your volunteers and stuff, it's a cultural thing now. And like you were saying, the way someone behaves on social media, whether it's a Sunday school leader or a member in the Sunday school class, if someone's being a jackass on social media, or being a jackass at a restaurant, it's no different. So, you go to them in private and say, hey, what's going on in your life, that sort of thing. I think we also have to understand that everyone is shooting video, everyone is taking pictures, and when you're doing things like at a youth event or at a summer splash bash or something like that, you need to have this in mind that some of these kids that you're going to be shooting could have a father that's looking for them.
Right. Could be foster kids.
It could be foster kids, exactly, all that sort of stuff. And I think that stuff like that, some of these specifics are things that need to be handled at large as well as internally.
Well, and I think, part of these guidelines, part of a social media policy is to help protect your people too, and train them and teach them on how to use social media and how to represent themselves publicly in a way that protects them. Like the reason why I added that line into the policy that I give away is because we had a pastor who would post pictures of his kids at their private school, and he was very careful to never reveal where the school was. But someone, a blogger, just downloaded the pictures, pulled the GPS data, which is super easy to do, and right there it said, okay, here's where the picture was taken, here's the address of the school. And it became an issue, and they were harassing the kid at the school because they didn't agree with this pastor, and it became a thing. And we were trying to figure out how did they figure out where the school was. We were pretty careful to not post that out there, but the guy was like, man, I want to be able to share the life of my kids online. That's what Instagram's for. That's what Facebook's for, to be able to share this kind of stuff. And it was kind of a bummer, but we had to learn, okay, when you're posting pictures of your kids, because of the position that you're in, you may want to turn off that data and maybe run it through a filter or something so that it's not on there. But you don't think of that kind of stuff. He's not tagging the location in it. But photos, there's tons of metadata under it. You can look at any photo, download it, and you can tell what camera it was taken with, the date, the GPS location, what filter was used, all sorts of stuff is all there in the file.
And it's in there in the file for other people to learn. He shot it with this lens, he shot it with this exposure and stuff like that. That all makes sense. And when you're using location services to tie it to a location for all the good that can do, but this is one of those unintended consequences. One of those things that reminds me. One of the things that I'm not going to say I hate it, but in today's culture and with the way the world is spinning out of control and stuff, I tell people now, look, don't put a bumper sticker on your car that shows, husband, wife, and 3 kids, or mom and 3 kids. Don't put, proud honor student at Tate Springs Baptist Church Christian School.
Right.
Don't put stuff, whether it's at your school, because if someone is seeing you, if someone is in a, sees your, cute 13-year-old daughter in the parking lot at the grocery store, it may be kind of bold for them to follow you, but they may make note that she goes to that school. They know where she is without you.
Right.
for 8 hours a day than 2 recesses, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's only so much we can do,
Right.
and things like that. Like we went to great lengths to try and hide Pastor Mark's address because people would come and harass him. But I was like, man, at the end of the day, we live in Seattle. The richest person in the world is Bill Gates, and he lives here, and people know where he lives.
Right.
But you know what? He's got a giant fence and a security team. So
Right. Yeah.
maybe that's the approach that we need to take. But there's nothing we can do to avoid someone following you home from church or following you home from the grocery store. Like, there's only so much you can do. But yeah, we do need to be safe and discerning with things. And so I think stuff like that's smart. And a lot of this is like, man, it sucks that we have to live like this. Like there's some like I want to use the location features in my phone because it's cool when I want to recall a photo. I can go, well, I know I took it at that restaurant. Let me just pull up the map on my iPhone and boom, here's the 40 photos I took at that restaurant. And like, that's a great feature. That's why that data is there, so that your phone can use it to retrieve stuff like that. But if you turn that off for those photos, it's like none of that searchable stuff is there. And so that's a sacrifice you're making for the greater good. My kids come first when it comes to stuff like that. So I'm careful about what I post online. I don't post a lot of stuff about my kids online, except for, I'll lock down the privacy settings so only people I know see that stuff. That's the type of stuff that can be put in these policies to say, here's just some guidelines on how to use this technology as well. And that's why it needs to adapt over time too, to say, hey, as Facebook changes the privacy settings, here's ways that you should be using that to protect our kids. Don't take a photo of kids ministry while you're volunteering, in the kids ministry this Sunday, and post it on your own personal channels, because that kid is a foster kid and we can't post photos of him online. That's illegal. Those parents, did not sign the form to allow us to do that, or that kid is hiding from his father who wants to kidnap him. Like, those are real scenarios that actually come up quite often. And so we need to be careful with that. But you would think of, a 13-year-old volunteer working in kids ministry doesn't need to know anything about our social media policies, but you'd be wrong. Like, that's probably the person who does need to, through that onboarding process, to say, hey, now that you're helping us out with this, here's just some things you need to be aware of. And I think that's having that written down just makes things a lot easier to be able to just kind of hand that over and say, here's ways that we want you to behave online, because you're representing the church, but also because we have to protect certain people from certain things.
It sounds like that having a social media wisdom course at your church, and 3 weeks on learning about social media and learning some of this stuff, just as good practices for individual safety and security and privacy, and on top of that, protecting the church and the people in it.
Yeah, I used to teach these things at our church, through community groups. I'd come to a community group and talk to everyone about this type of stuff. I think the churches should be leading that. Like, you shouldn't have to go to your government community center or something online to learn this stuff. Like, the church can be involved in things that aren't religious, and you should be teaching the Bible first and foremost, but you should also be teaching people how to be disciples of Christ, and part of that is teaching them how to operate in our culture and use the technology around us in edifying ways. So I think it's totally cool if churches create Facebook groups teaching this stuff, create little workshops and classes, like do an online Facebook Live type of webinar thing, and how cool would it be if people are jumping on who aren't part of the church to say, wow, this local church in my community is teaching about social media. That's cool. I'm going to jump on this. It could be used as an outreach tool as well.
Yeah, this whole conversation sounds a lot like what we talk about in IT security. There's a balance. We say there's a balance. You can have a lot of security, but it's going to sacrifice some convenience. Or you can have a lot of convenience, and it's going to sacrifice some security. And I think we all have that one thing we want to do at work, and the computer goes, like, you can't do this. And you're like, why can't I do this? Well, it's because security. Like, you can't just click on anything you want. You can't just go anywhere and download anything you want. And so it's kind of the same
access
thing.
Those Marvel fan sites, aren't you?
That's right. So you can't expect just to be able to do everything. You don't have to protect some things. And I think that's what this is it's not saying don't do this, have no fun. You join our team, you're off of social media. It's you just need to take these precautions just like you would on your computer at work. We're going to take precautions, make sure that we represent the church well, make sure we represent, more importantly, Christ well, but also make sure we protect our people. And we haven't gotten into this, but in your post and in your policy, you also talk about the legality of what you post. There's certain things that you may learn at church that you can't post, right? There's obvious things, but there's also not so obvious things.
Well, it depends on your role too. Like if you're children's volunteer, may not affect you so much, but if you're like an actual pastor of something with that kind of title, you can't say, "Hey, I'm a pastor at ABC Church and I'm voting for whoever," or I'm a Republican and you should be too. Like that kind of stuff really gets you in trouble with the types of licenses that your church may have.
Right.
One of the things that you say in there is, how does this point to Jesus? What are you trying to accomplish with this status or a tweet? Mm-hmm. Do you want your enemies to know this? Are you giving them rocks to throw? That's something that a lot of us don't think about. Do you want it to be public record in 30 years? I don't think, even today, with people knowing that this stuff doesn't go away, I don't think they think in terms of that. That's why, you hear these stories of people that are, they're trying to hire a nanny or they want to hire someone to be a child care worker. And then you find out that, with an ex-boyfriend who took dirty pictures of her and they thought it was fun and sexy. And now he's posting them online. And no matter what legal recourse she tries to go through to get there, someone has already screen capped him and thrown him up on another site. And, and now how does that, you want your kids? I mean, we've had school teachers that have been fired in other districts because, they're 40 now and they're a school teacher, but when they were 22, they were a very popular film star, in an underground community. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
It could be something that they've even repented from and moved on from, but it's still...
They're the perfect example of God's redemption, and it's a wonderful ministry that they have from this point forward. However, it's still out there.
Right. We've got to be, we got to be careful about that stuff. I wish that, there was like a Chrome plugin or something that before you hit send on that Facebook post, it would pop up with 3 questions or whatever. I think somebody should build that.
Kind of like Google's drunk goggles or whatever.
That was the thing, wasn't it? Yeah. Before you send an email, it makes you wait.
Yeah. Mr. Dean, where can people get a hold of you?
All the places. Go just look for Justin J. Dean. You gotta add that J in there because there's another Justin Dean out there. He's not as cool as me. He's not really doing anything, but he's there. So Justin J. Dean on Twitter, justinjddean.com. You can get my book, PR Matters, at churchprbook.com or Amazon. And the social media policy is like a free download with that. So, I mean, you could buy the ebook for $7 or whatever, and you get a crisis plan. You get the social media policy, you get a social media guide, all sorts of stuff with that. So go check it out. And if you want to know about the conference, that's at thatcc.com. And looking forward to having you guys be a part of the summit, thatchurchsummit.com. Our next one's coming up in May, and that's all online and it's completely free. So excited about that.
Yeah, we are too. And thanks for reaching out to us. We appreciate it. We're looking forward to contributing to that gigantic pool of knowledge that happens in these kind of summits and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, so glad you guys are a part of it. I think it's going to be really good.
Thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate the work that you do. And just thanks for taking a few moments out of your day to hang with us.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Man, that was deep. That was intense. And it kind of scares you a little bit when you think about the metadata and the location tagging and people stalking you. But this is the life we're living. We're not talking about shut everything down, stop it. This is pointless. Something's going to happen. It's just, you put a deadbolt on your door, you put an alarm system in your house, you put, window break sensors, you get a dog, you get these things to protect your house. And we're just giving you some guidelines to protect your church and your reputation. And honestly, the kingdom's reputation too. We want to be good representatives. We want to be good ambassadors of Christ. And that includes social media. And this is just one way to get there.
Yeah, I still don't think people completely understand that once you publish something like that, it is out there, and it has the potential to be out there forever. How many times, Justin, have we seen folks, a political candidate or someone who's holding a political office or someone who, is this like staff for a senator or something like that, they put something out there on Twitter, they tweet something that's just, they weren't thinking at the time, and it went out, and it's horrible. It's like all these people should die, if you support the NRA or, junk like that. And then they will turn around and delete it because the person next to them goes, hey, you need to delete that tweet. However, it did go out there, and somebody did a screen capture of it. So even if they delete it from their Twitter stream or delete it from their page on Facebook or whatever, there's a chance that in that 10 minutes that you've let it actually be out there, that not only have people seen it, but people have archived it, forever. Now you got to find all the people that have a JPEG screenshot of you being a jerk online and misrepresenting whoever it is that you're representing and stuff. And
if you have any questions regarding social media strategy at all, by all means, visit our show notes. We're going to have a breakdown of the interview. We're going to have a link to Justin's done for you church social media guidelines, and you'll be able to find more there.
If you are looking for ways that you can use and exploit media and technology, that is what we're here for. That is what Justin and I are here for. That is what Church Training Academy is here for. That's what our little community is here for. We teach you guys how to use and exploit media and technology so you can take the gospel to the world. And we do that through membership at churchtrainingacademy.com. So if you go to churchtrainingacademy.com/join, you can see the membership levels that we have available. We've got a monthly and a yearly. Right now, our pricing is really low. We've got 2 or 3 more courses to put into our library in the back end, and then we're going to be raising up the price because already you guys are getting a huge value at the $27 a month. You're going to be getting courses, you're going to be getting tutorials, you're going to be getting access to our private Facebook group, which is a little community of folks just like you and me that are learning how to use media and technology, hitting roadblocks every now and then, being in situations where we're not sure which direction to take. Should I go this route? Should I go this route? And when you share that information in the group, other people can share the wisdom that they've learned over the years, whether it's been, hey, we were looking at doing live streaming and we decided to go with Boxcaster instead of trying to just stream to YouTube by itself or to stream to Facebook. We decided to go with Boxcaster because you can embed it on your website and you can stream to all the different social platforms at one time, stuff like that. I remember I had a problem with my TriCaster at the church. I had a question. I mean, I've been using TriCaster since they first came out, and I wasn't sure about how to do something. And so I got with my buddy Neil, who's one of our members, and he uses a TriCaster on a daily basis. And I said, hey, do you know how to do X? And he said, yeah, you just do this, that, and the other. And I'm, quote unquote, the expert, but that's what you get when you're a part of Church Training Academy. When you're a CTA insider, you get access to the wealth of knowledge that is every other member. So go to churchtrainingacademy.com/join, find out how you can become a part of our group. Guys, thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Justin Dean, for being our guest, bringing the wealth of knowledge. And guys, if you haven't followed Justin, be sure that you go and do that. He is a church PR brain. I mean, he's got all kinds of ideas, and he sees things in ways that a lot of us may not see him just simply because we don't think about it on a regular basis, but he does. And be sure to join Justin Nava, myself, Justin Dean, and a wealth of other people over at That Church Summit happening here in just a few weeks. Guys, thank y'all for watching. Have a fantastic week. Now take all the stuff that you've been learning and go out there and change lives.